What did Apple do wrong with their phones? A lot of people might think Apple did amazing with their phones throughout the years and throughout the decades, but Apple made a really big mistake that no one really noticed. And today, I'm here to bring it to everyone's attention. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe and hit the like button. Over the year, Apple has made many iPhones. Starting with their iPhones pretty much looking like this, and now their iPhones looking like this. That's a big difference. But now, me personally, I think Apple has made not the best decision when it comes to coming out with new phones. And let's start off with the first iPhone ever made, and the iPhone 5. Now, with the iPhone 1 coming out in 2007, and then the iPhone 5 coming out in 2012, back in the day, the iPhone 5, when it first came out, that was like the iPhone 15 now in 2023. This phone was crazy expensive. People were saving up their money like crazy just to purchase the new iPhone 5. But I think Apple is such a scam, but yet Apple is one of my favorite companies. Apple comes out with the phone every 1 to 2 years, and let's be honest, the upgrades are absolutely awful. That's why I think if you were to do an upgrade, you want to have at least a 3 to 4 phone year gap. For example, the iPhone 5 came out in 2012 and the iPhone 7 came out in 2016. That is a 4-year age gap, and the difference between the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 7 is actually a really big difference. Now, I do know that the phone, obviously, after the iPhone 5 is the iPhone 6. I used to have an iPhone 6 in my collection, but sadly got rid of it, so we're going to use the next phone up, which is the iPhone 7. The main differences between the two phones starting off is that from the iPhone 6 all the way up to the iPhone 11 Pro Max, Apple got rid of their squared edges until the iPhone 12 came around and Apple started bringing back their squared edges. And it's the minor things that you have to look at. For example, their volume up and volume down button are circled. From the iPhone 6 all the way up, the volume up and volume down button are flat. The camera quality between the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 6 are pretty much identical, but the camera quality between the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 7 is a pretty big difference. As where the iPhone 5 has 8 megapixels on their camera and the iPhone 7 has 12 megapixels on their camera, that is a pretty big difference. Here's a picture taken off of the iPhone 5 and here's a picture taken off of the iPhone 7. Now also let's talk about the screen size. And the iPhone 6 eras being the first phones to ever have the Plus premium versions of the original phones. For example, you would have your iPhone 6 and then you would have your iPhone 6 Plus. Everything would be called the Plus all the way up until the 10. Now, the iPhone XR never had a Pro Max or Plus version on an add-on to that phone, but the iPhone XS had a Max version, which was the iPhone XS Max, also known as the iPhone XS Max, which was the exact same phone as the iPhone XS, except the iPhone XS Max was just bigger and a little bit better. Once you get into the iPhone 11 eras, you start getting into the iPhone Pro and the iPhone Pro Max. So instead of having one Plus version of that phone, you now have 3. The iPhone 11, the iPhone 11 Pro, and the iPhone 11 Pro Max. And that carries all the way up to the new phone, which is the iPhone 15 Pro Max. But let's take one phone step back and let's go into the iPhone 14. Now, the iPhone 14 was the first iPhone to have 3 additional Plus premium versions of that one phone. For example, you had the iPhone 14, and then you had the iPhone 14 Plus, and then you had the iPhone 14 Pro, and then you had the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Why all of a sudden did iPhone bring back the Plus versions? I don't know why. But then once we started getting into the iPhone 15 eras, the Plus version just magically went away, and then it went back to the 2 additional Plus premium versions, which was just the iPhone 15, 15 Pro, and 15 Pro Max. So we can say that the iPhone 6, 7, and 8 were the only phones that had the Plus versions of those original phones. As where the iPhone 8 Plus got released in 2017, that is where the Plus version stopped. But if we skip all the way over to 5 years later in 2022, that's where the Plus versions came back, and that is where we got the iPhone 14 Plus. But then in 2023, the iPhone 14 Plus and all Plus premium versions just went away, and now we're back to the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Maxes. Honestly, I think Apple has screwed up many times. They're just super confusing. Same reason why no one has ever seen the iPhone 9. iPhone just decided to skip a number, so now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. No more 9, I guess. I don't know. I give up. Also, let's face it, between the iPhone 11 Pros and the iPhone 13 Pros, there is absolutely no difference. And as were the iPhone 14 Pros and the iPhone 15 Pros, there is also no difference except USB-C and the titanium frame. Okay, what else is new? But for example, the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 11 Pro Max, that is a huge difference in just 1 year. As were the iPhone 11 era being the first phone to ever have 3 cameras. And this is the first phone where Apple started using a different material on the back. So it's not this glass that breaks easily. Just take it from the shatter on the back of the phone. Also, the iPhone 7s were the first phones to not have a headphone jack. As where if you look into the older phones, as where the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 5 do have the headphone jack. That's bullshit. Why would Apple get rid of the number one most necessary slot on a phone, which is the headphone jack? This phone came out in 2016. What else came out in 2016? The AirPods. AirPods were and still are crazy expensive. And a lot of people had to basically stop wearing headphones until they could buy the AirPods because they were so expensive. Either that or they would have to downgrade their phone to the older phones that had the headphone jack. Apple has made this world so confusing, but yet again, Apple is one of my favorite brands. Apple beats Samsung hands down. So what is my advice for getting an iPhone? If you want a phone that is just simple so you can use calls, text messages, open Facebook, get a Samsung because they're super easy phones. I mean, sure, their camera displays are crap. Their brightness displays aren't really that good. Their pixels are awful. And their brightness is just not the best. And they're super glitchy. But hey, it's a simple phone. Basically, what I'm trying to say is if you own an iPhone, you're somewhere in between the ages of like 12 and 65. Once you start getting older, you start getting the more the simpler phones, which is the Samsungs. Now, that is perfectly fine. I think that is super smart. I have 2 grandparents that use Samsungs because they're easier phones. And they don't even use text messages. All they use is calls and Facebook, and that is absolutely it. And that works perfectly fine. iPhones are for people who want a little bit of that luxury and, well, people who want a better phone. Because let's face it, iPhone is just better than Samsung. But another thing that I recommend, if a phone comes out in 2024, do not buy that phone in 2024. Buy that phone in 2026. Right now, if you own the iPhone 14 Pro Max, don't get the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Completely waste of your money. Basically, what I'm trying to say is have a 3 to 4 year gap in between phones before you buy the next phone. For example, let's say you have an iPhone 10 and you want an upgrade. Get the iPhone 11 Pro Max or get the iPhone 12. That is completely fine, and you're going to save a bunch of money. Because again, somewhere between the iPhone 11s and the iPhone 13 Pro Maxes, all of the phones are the same. That is all there is to be said. If you guys like this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. I am not going to lie. This is my 5th attempt trying to do the outro. I will see you on the next one. Peace out.